Little House on the Prairie is a reminder of when things were simpler for us in our lives those 45 years ago.
There are television romances that entertain you. And then there are television romances that genuinely change you. Ones that make you believe in love all over again, even if you're sitting alone on your couch in your pajamas eating cereal for dinner. The love story of Laura Ingalls and Almanzo Wilder on Little House on the Prairie was exactly that kind of romance. For nearly a decade, millions of viewers tuned in every week, not just to watch frontier life unfold, but to watch two people fall in love in the most honest, tender way that television had ever seen. And at the center of that story were two real human beings, Melissa Gilbert and Dean Butler. For decades, fans wondered what was really going on between them. Was the chemistry real? Were they secretly in love off camera? Did the magic of Laura and Almanzo spill over into their actual lives? And why, for all these years, did Melissa Gilbert stay almost completely silent about it? She gave careful answers in interviews, smiled when the subject came up, and kept the real story tucked safely away from public view. Until now, because Melissa Gilbert has finally opened up about her relationship with Dean Butler. And what she has revealed is not the scandalous secret romance that fans always hoped for. It is something far more honest, far more complicated, and in many ways, far more beautiful. To understand why this revelation matters so much, you have to first understand just how powerful Little House on the Prairie was as a cultural force. The show premiered in 1974, based on the beloved book series by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and it ran for 9 seasons. It was appointment television in an era before streaming, before DVRs, before anyone could pause and rewind. Families gathered around their television sets together, and what they watched was a story about simplicity, struggle, love, and resilience set against the backdrop of the American frontier. Melissa Gilbert was cast as Laura Ingalls at just 9 years old, and from her very first episode, audiences were captivated. She had an authenticity that most child actors struggle their entire careers to find. She wasn't performing emotion. She was feeling it, right there on screen, and every single viewer could see the difference. As the seasons progressed, she grew up in front of the entire country, and America grew attached to her in a deeply personal way. Viewers felt like they knew her. They felt like Laura was their daughter, their sister, their best friend. Then, in the later seasons of the show, something shifted. Laura was growing up, and the writers understood that her story needed to evolve. Enter Dean Butler, cast as Almanzo Wilder, the steady, gentle, handsome farmer who would eventually win Laura's heart. From the moment he appeared on screen, the audience felt it. There was warmth in the way he looked at her. There was a patience in how Almanzo courted Laura that felt almost old-fashioned in the most wonderful way. Fans were completely swept away. Here is where the mystery begins. As the show's romance between Laura and Almanzo captured the hearts of millions, fans naturally began to wonder whether something real was happening between Melissa and Dean off-camera. It was the kind of speculation that follows any believable on-screen couple, but with these two, it was particularly intense. Their chemistry felt so genuine, so unforced, that it seemed almost impossible to believe it was purely the result of good writing and skilled performance. But Melissa and Dean never really fed that narrative. They were not the type to sit down for joint interviews, gushing about each other. They did not fuel tabloid stories or show up together at events in a way that suggested a real-life romance. They were professional, they were gracious, and they were quiet. And in a strange way, that quietness only made the speculation louder. When celebrities refuse to talk about something, people assume it is because there is something worth hiding. So for decades, the question lingered. Fans who had grown up watching the show carried it with them into adulthood. They passed it on to their own children, who discovered Little House in reruns and syndication and asked the same questions their parents had once asked. What was really going on between Melissa Gilbert and Dean Butler? Was there a love story that the world never got to see? The answer, as Melissa Gilbert has now made clear, is both simpler and more layered than anyone expected. In her memoir Prairie Tale, and in various interviews over the years that have collectively painted a full picture, Melissa has peeled back the curtain on what that experience was actually like for her, and it was nothing like the fairy tale the camera suggested. When Dean Butler joined the cast, Melissa was 15 years old. Dean was 23. She has spoken candidly about the profound awkwardness she felt being asked to portray romantic love on screen when she had not yet experienced anything resembling it in her real life. She had not dated seriously. She was still very much a teenager in every sense of the word, navigating the ordinary confusion of adolescence while simultaneously performing it in front of a national audience. The scenes that looked so effortless and natural to viewers were, behind the scenes, genuinely uncomfortable for her to film. She has described her first on-screen kiss with Dean as terrifying. Not because Dean did anything wrong, she has been consistently clear on that point, but because the entire situation was surreal. There were cameras, there was crew, there were lights and directors, and the weight of audience expectation. And in the middle of all of it was a teenage girl being asked to look convincingly in love with a grown man she had just met professionally. It was, by her own account, one of the more emotionally bewildering experiences of her young career. And yet, crucially, Melissa has never blamed Dean Butler for any of it. Quite the opposite. She has spoken warmly and with genuine gratitude about how he conducted himself throughout the entire time they worked together. He was patient. He was respectful. He was unfailingly professional and kind. He understood the age difference and the power dynamic it created, and he never exploited it or made Melissa feel anything other than safe. In an industry that has not always treated young actresses with that level of care, it was something she has never forgotten. So, if it was not a secret romance, what exactly was the relationship between Melissa Gilbert and Dean Butler? The word Melissa has used most often is one that fans perhaps did not want to hear, but one that, upon reflection, is far more meaningful than any tabloid headline could be. She has described Dean as being like a big brother to her. That might sound anticlimactic, but think about what it means in context. Melissa Gilbert was a teenage girl working in Hollywood, growing up in one of the most scrutinized industries on earth, carrying the weight of an entire television series on her young shoulders. The people around her mattered enormously, not just professionally but personally. Dean Butler, by all accounts, chose to be someone she could count on. He created an environment on set where she felt protected and valued, not as a prop in someone else's love story, but as a person. He has shared his own perspective in interviews and in his own writing, and his account aligns with hers in every meaningful way. He recognized early on that Melissa was young and that the romantic storyline placed unique pressures on her. He made a deliberate choice to prioritize her comfort and dignity over anything else. The result was a professional partnership built on mutual respect, one that produced some of the most beloved scenes in television history, none of which required actual romantic feelings to create. What they had was real, just not romantic. And real, it turns out, is rarer and harder to find than romance. One of the most striking things about Melissa's candid reflections is how clearly she articulates what it cost her to grow up in public the way she did. She spent her childhood and adolescence being watched, being judged, being loved by strangers who felt they owned a piece of her. The character of Laura Ingalls became so deeply associated with her identity that separating the two was almost impossible for the public. And at times, for Melissa herself, there were moments, she has admitted, where she genuinely did not know where Laura ended and Melissa began. She was playing a girl who was brave, wholesome, and good, and the world expected her to be that girl at all times, in every context, in every photograph, in every interview. The pressure was relentless, and layered on top of it was the manufactured romance with Dean, which fans embraced so completely that questioning its reality felt almost sacrilegious. She also dealt with beauty standards and physical scrutiny that no teenager should face. As she transitioned out of the prairie dress simplicity of Little House into other Hollywood projects, the industry made clear that she was expected to transform herself accordingly. She has spoken honestly about the cosmetic procedures she underwent as a young woman, the surgeries that followed, and the long journey it took to eventually arrive at a place of genuine self-acceptance. That journey was shaped in part by the years she spent performing a version of herself that the entertainment industry had decided it wanted. What makes Melissa Gilbert's story about Dean Butler ultimately so moving is not the absence of romance, but the presence of something more durable. The two of them have maintained a genuine friendship over the decades that followed Little House. When Melissa celebrated her 50th birthday, Dean was there. They have appeared together in interviews and reunion specials, and the warmth between them is unmistakable. Not the charged electricity of former lovers, but the deep, comfortable warmth of people who went through something significant together and came out the other side, still caring about each other. Dean has spoken about Melissa with consistent admiration, describing her as one of the most naturally talented performers he has ever worked alongside. He has acknowledged openly that making their on-screen romance convincing was a genuine creative challenge, and he credits much of its success to her ability to commit fully to every scene even when the circumstances were difficult for her personally. That kind of professional respect, sustained over a lifetime, is not nothing. It is actually quite rare. Melissa Gilbert today is a woman who has done the hard work of figuring out who she actually is beneath all the characters she was asked to play. She lives a quieter life now, married to actor Timothy Busfield, growing vegetables, raising animals, and writing books that reflect honestly on a life that has been anything but simple. She has spoken out about mental health, body image, the cruelty of Hollywood's beauty standards, and the importance of aging without apology. She has become, in many ways, the most authentic version of a person who spent her earliest years being asked to perform authenticity for a living. Her decision to finally speak openly about Dean Butler and the reality of their relationship is consistent with who she has become. She is not interested in protecting myths, even beloved ones. She would rather offer people the truth, even when the truth is quieter and less dramatic than the story they hope to hear. And perhaps that is the most important lesson in all of it. The romance of Laura and Almanzo was one of television's greatest love stories. It moved people, it inspired people. It gave generations of viewers something to believe in. None of that was diminished by the fact that the two people creating it were doing so through skill, professionalism, and mutual respect rather than personal romantic feeling. If anything, it makes the achievement more impressive. Melissa Gilbert has finally broken her silence, and what she has said is this: the love story was real. It just belonged to the characters, not to her. And the friendship that replaced it, steady, honest, and enduring, has turned out to be worth more than any Hollywood romance ever could have been. What do you think about what Melissa Gilbert has finally revealed? Does it change the way you see Laura and Almanzo's story? Or does it make you appreciate it even more? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video worth your time, please like and subscribe. And stay tuned because there are more stories like this one coming your way.